next session. The session we will be talking about now is the future of skilling, driving academia, industry, and government collaboration. And we have our moderator right here with us today. So please put your hands together as I would like to invite on stage Joerg Hildebrandt, MD and Senior Partner from BCB. Everybody, BCG. Could we have a huge round of applause for him? He leads the global public sector practice at Boston Consulting Group. He advises senior leaders and board members of government entities on strategic transformations to deliver future success. His mission, of course, is to unlock the full potential of large corporation and public sector institutions. So very, very warm welcome to you, Joerg. Our speaker, our panelist for today is Joan Concannon, who's our Director for External Relations, University of York. A huge round of applause for Joan, please. A position that she has held since October 2009. She oversees a broad portfolio of responsibilities, including reputation management, student recruitment, philanthropy, alumni relations, communications, marketing, stakeholder engagement, public affairs, and income generation. So big round of applause for Joan, please. Our next panelist is Avinash, President from Applied Materials India and VP, Semiconductor Products Group Asia, who is the country's president and the managing director. He oversees Applied's business operations in India, spanning 5 sites, and is responsible for R&D, product development, IT, and operations. A big round of applause for Avinash, please. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Veerlapati, who's our president and CEO from S2 Tech. Round of applause for him. And IIT Kharagpur alumnus and I founded S2 Tech in 1997. It's headquartered in the Western Center and run the company specializes in delivering active and business services to government and private sector clients across 30. A big round of applause once again for our moderator and panelists. And Joerg, over to you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that. So, good afternoon, dear audience, and good afternoon also to the panelists. Wonderful to have you here with me. We have now the opportunity to discuss the future of skilling. It is really a key topic for all the countries around the world. You can imagine the gap between what the technology advancement is towards how fast the skills are being developed. It's widening, and hence it could have never been more timely to talk about this topic than today. I thought I'd do a quick warm-up for you in terms of statistics, and then later on I will ask some questions to all of you. Thank you again for being here. So, there are 3 technologies, AI, robotics, and also semiconductor. It's good that we have you here talking about semiconductor that really drive business transformations around the world. That is, just recently it was announced by the World Economic Forum. However, the World Economic Forum also researched and found out that more than 60% of all the employers around the world think that skill gap is actually the inhibitor #1 of business transformation. More than 60% of the companies. And in India, a fast-moving nation where you are investing and building up the global capability centers and the manufacturing that you do, the skill gap is even higher than that. In India, according to World Bank studies, you have more than 600 million workers. However, there's also a study that says more than half of that are not ready in order to fill that skill gap. So demand is outpacing the supply. And that is actually exacerbating if you think about it with the AI requirements or also semiconductor requirements that you have here in India. So of education or teaching skills. needs to be a better collaboration between government, industry, and also academia. That is what we would like to explore together today. So, we will discuss this topic along 3 subtopics. The first subtopic is industry, academia, collaboration for the future. And I would like to start with you, Avi, because the question is around semiconductor and advanced manufacturing, and you are facing an acute skill shortage in your sector that you are running. And let me start by one question, which is, what are the most critical technical and also soft skills shortages that you see in your industry?
Thank you, Joerg. Just quick.
Yeah, I think it's working now.
It is on, but can you not hear me?
No, maybe we pass on to
Hello, can I just try that?
Yeah.
Can you hear me on this one?
Yeah, just closer a little bit, I think.
How about now? Yes, okay. So thanks, Joerg, for that question. And just quickly, I had 30 years in the semiconductor industry, roughly 20 years in the US and 10 years in Singapore. Most of the time in the US was in the San Francisco Bay Area with the ecosystem that's developed there for Silicon Valley. And of course, working in Singapore also in the electronic semiconductor sector. So I had a huge amount of experience on partnerships with corporate academic institutions and building talent for the future. And I just moved back to India 4 months ago, so I'm learning about building our future here and looking at the capabilities. The gaps exist worldwide, so there's a 1 million headcount shortage, skilled headcount shortage around the world for semiconductors. And of course, with India starting to embark on a big semiconductor journey, that gap here is large because we have no skilled talent here, and how do we build that? Semiconductor processes are very unique and very advanced, but there are industries in India that actually have done some of that, whether it's biopharma, automotive, aerospace, have advanced capabilities. And so there is an ability to adapt from there to semiconductors, but there is a big leap. And specifically the gaps there are around understanding the semiconductor manufacturing process. What is a chip? How is it made? What is the whole process engineering required that goes into it? The ability to drive the process improvements to make new chips, new designs, new manufacturing process. These are all unique skills that are built either through advanced academic study or hands-on learning while doing the job. And so that's an area that we need to build for the industry, and particularly our customer, Tata, that will build a fab here, will be looking for those types of skills. Applied Materials is an equipment technology provider, so for us, some of the skills are much more on the engineering and development of advanced semiconductor manufacturing systems. Our machines can sell for $5 to $10 million a piece, but they're very advanced systems. So systems engineering and mechanical, electrical engineering, physics, chemistry. And we are pushing the limits of science when we do this, when we're talking about making a circuit that has 100 kilometers of wire in a chip the size of your thumb. Imagine how thick that wire has to be if you have 100 kilometers of wire of copper that small. It has to be 2 or 3 atoms thick. How do you do that? It's with vaporizing metal and then depositing it 2 or 3 atoms thick on a very fine line. So what we're doing every day is pushing the limits of physics and chemistry to make this possible. And so the skills required for that are also unique. And so the way we look to do that is build partnerships with the universities so we can get the right programs on campus that are also working with us through internships or apprenticeships so we can then get them connected. That gap exists everywhere. When I graduated college in the US, I still had to get trained on the job before I was relevant 3-4 months later. But how can we close that gap quickly by partnering early with the academic institutions, bringing the curriculum, bringing students into our programs and teaching them what is needed. So that's certainly how we would look to do that. There's also a soft skill gap that I see that is pretty unique to our industry because we are a continuously innovating company or an industry. I mean, we talk about Moore's Law, and every year we're designing something new. So this is not good, it's never good enough, you just have to keep getting better. So having the mindset to solve problems and continuously innovate, no matter if you've solved the problem, there's always another problem around the corner. So those are the things that would be unique to what we need, and certainly looking to partner across the ecosystem to help enable.
Thank you. And if I may ask you, so for those partnerships that you have with academia here in India, is there anything that you would like to see more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Applied has been in India for almost 22 years. And we started very early with IIT Bombay, where we actually put a lab, a semiconductor lab, the only one of its kind in India to work with the university on research. And through that, many IIT students actually worked on semiconductor process. Some of them are employed by us, and some of them have joined us and also gone to our customers. That's a very small scale. We're talking about tens of people. What India needs is thousands or tens of thousands of people across the spectrum of industries. And so to work with additional institutions on how do we get the skilling level up across all levels. Many of the IIT people might go into certain advanced process engineering roles for design and R&D, but we also need skills for manufacturing. We need skills for technical level roles, where we need to proliferate the training and engage across a broader set of institutions. Applied Materials has worked on a program called Ascent, which is to bring semiconductor problems to the industry, to India, to the universities, and they all pitch on trying to solve those problems for us. We have a competition, we just started that, and we'll continue to proliferate that. So more people and more universities can work on our daily problems and get part of that and get trained as well.
Super. Thank you very much. Just a quick check if you can hear us well, because here the sound quality is a little bit lower. Yeah, you're good. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Over to you, Day. Thank you again for joining. One of the recent reports of NASSCOM has highlighted that only 40% of the Indian engineering graduates actually find an internship in one of your leading companies. How can you increase that share going forward?
It's a good question. With my experience of hiring employees from the colleges here, one of the biggest problem I see is the communication skills. So people are very good technically, but when you ask a question, they can't answer this in a confident way or in a succinct and concise way. So that is one thing I noticed is public speaking skills is very, very short here. I mean, I went through the system here, and when I graduated, I was like anybody. So you give me something, I'll come back and give you, but I was not speaking well. So the first thing we did was the people that we hired, we wanted to get them through Toastmasters program. The Toastmasters program really helped, bridge that gap in the soft skills. So that is one thing. And the second one is the listening skills and also able to write grammatically correct way. When the people respond to the emails or something, they'll say whole page of reasons why it was not done, and then at the end they'll say the work is not done. But in the Western world, you say what is not done and why it is not done follows, rather than why it is not done, all the reasons, and then why it's not done. So it's a completely different mindset. So what we have done, you talked about the 40% of the people are only employable. So what we have done is we have gone to the universities, we hired the students, and we said, you don't need to finish your undergrad. You come and join us 6 months ahead of time. So they were willing to come and work, and the universities, we worked with them. So they released the students 6 months in advance to us. And so in the 6 months, we trained on the soft skills, on the skills that we need to do our projects. Say we use the Udemy and those kind of online tools to train them. And we had a good mentoring. So we bridged that gap that exists between what the university was producing and what we needed by hiring them, having them start 6 months early, and giving them the training. And so that's how we were able to do it. But absolutely there is a need for, if people who are graduating here, if they need to find a job, the communication skills is absolutely important. And so anybody, if Toastmasters is one, writing skills and those kind of things are good. So if they can master those things as they're doing it, I think that will help a lot.
Super interesting. And this is also something that you think you can scale up?
What is that?
That you can scale it up, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this Toastmasters program, you could do it any number of students, any number of people, and even the online tools we have. So you could take the licenses for 100,000 at a time, no worries. So yeah, you can scale it up significantly.
And the industry can help as well, right, on this. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. Coming to you, Joan, coming from the UK, thank you very much for being here with us. As I was saying during my introduction, the skill gap is something that is preventing 60% of a business transformation. Now we are eager to hear what kind of solutions you can bring from the UK or from global locations that you have seen.
Okay, well, it's a tall ask to find a total solution to a skills gap I absolutely recognize. Hello, everybody. It's fantastic to be back in Bangalore. I think I've got a number of reflections, having worked in higher education for really quite a long time now, which is to say, I think we're at a really interesting inflection point with the rise of artificial intelligence, where all of us individually, businesses, governments, higher education, colleges, are thinking, what do we do about, on the one hand, grasp the opportunity and optimize the opportunity of artificial intelligence, but on the other hand, it's quite a significant challenge to think about the different interdependencies, about how you respond. So I guess my meta challenge to all of us is we need to think about this collaboratively and at a system level. What I mean by that is, really what we're talking about is the ability to plan ahead for a global labor market that is changing radically under our feet, where we are not thinking about the demographic trends in a system-led way at a global level. So I think there is an enormous cohort of young people in India who are going to be entering the labor market. Do we have the right access and affordability systems in place to be able to optimize the undoubted talent of those young people? There's also an issue for me about the actual fixed nature of academia that I think itself is under challenge and needs to be under challenge. And I use that from the point of view of the very nature of education building blocks of a degree program, a master's program, a PhD program, and then what? So I guess my perspective is an undergraduate degree program is the basic building block required now, but we need to have much deeper and shorter lines of communication between higher education, businesses, and governments at a regional and national level to think about what is the lifelong reskilling opportunity, but also the funding of that lifelong opportunity, who pays for that? There's a lot of statistics flying around about people moving from instrumental level vocational jobs into middle management jobs where there's very little training available. So going back to the soft skills, and if I give you some examples now of what the University of York thinks about when we think about undergraduate and master's levels programs, we don't just think about what's happening in the classroom. We try to provide as much experiential learning as we possibly can. But sometimes it can be tricky to get employers to find the headspace to see the long-term value of engaging with universities in providing those experiences. So we encourage our students to do a lot of volunteering. We encourage our students to get involved in sustainability projects. We do a lot of problem-based learning. So we try to make this as practice-based as possible, simply to provide that on-the-ground skill level. And I would agree that soft skills, this is probably more of a UK thing, but it really concerns me that there is a bias towards an instrumentalization of education, looking at skills deficits right now. But if you think about it from that point of view, then you sometimes forget the importance of interdisciplinarity and the vital importance of thinking, if you are a scientist, then you also need to think about the ethical dimensions of what you are discovering and applying. You need to think about the safety of all of that as well. So York's got a very long tradition in our vast 62-year history of interdisciplinarity. There is a great deal of openness between the disciplines and between research and teaching, and we think that's absolutely vital. And I will give you one final example of ways that we think about that. We are the only Institute for Safe Autonomy in the world thinking about safety assurance of effectively conventional AI and its deployment. And I think that's really vitally important in terms of ensuring that we think about safety from the point of view of legal and ethical considerations as much as the technical considerations, so that we have a really good understanding of what the social and societal impacts of artificial intelligence are, and make choices about whether or not those are things that we think are a good thing or a bad thing. But again, that is about having an institute that is full of software engineers, but it is also full of legal and philosophical experts who are amplifying the scientists' thinking about the adoption of that software, and not just how good it is, but how safe it is. So I think I'll stop there for now because I've got lots more to say.
Excellent, excellent insights. Thanks so much for sharing. Now we move to the second subtopic. The second subtopic is about technology and the future of workforce training. And I see you get prepared. I mean, excellent. And we want to have a little bit of a deep dive again because of its importance into the semiconductor industry. It faces a very steep learning curve in all specialized technical roles, as you also alluded to earlier. Now, the question is, as we move forward to greater automation and AI-driven manufacturing, how do you see the role of the human being in all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started my first job being a manufacturing process improvement engineer. And that job doesn't exist today because it's already AI'd. And I'm hoping the president of Applied Materials India job doesn't get AI'd also that way anytime soon. Every sector has been touched by AI, and particularly even in our semiconductor industry. And so I'll focus more on the manufacturing side of it because the chips are actually enabling AI. So in some ways, we are making ourselves obsolete by making chips that have AI that then take jobs away. So, but if you look purely on the semiconductor value chain, where you talk about design, R&D, manufacturing, and service as main components of building a chip from a manufacturing or value chain perspective, every one of those can be advanced and AI can be leveraged. The designs are getting extremely complex. If you think of an NVIDIA chip or what design that has to go into it is very, very complex. It's almost impossible for a human to do it all by themselves. So they can leverage AI to actually take the chip design to an advanced stage before they jump in. So in every single case, the human interface gets added to the place where AI cannot go, right? So on the design side, AI is already pushing the limits of design. On the R&D side, there's a lot of data being collected, whether that's in a chip R&D or a manufacturing process, where you can collect data and then immediately give feedback and then feed forward to how to improve things as you're making products. So that data and the use of AI can actually help make it even faster and better. In the manufacturing systems, we're already seeing today, and maybe COVID accelerated this, many of our customers today are operating their factories remotely because during COVID, you couldn't send an engineer into the lab, so they had people in India actually operating labs, one of our customers in Germany or elsewhere. And so more and more, you're able to use these tools so that the human element diminishes, but is still the highest value add element. And on a service point of view, the same thing. The service capability is so advanced that when you walk up to a machine to actually service it, it is already self-correcting because it knows what it needs to do. So AI will be a big play, and it will continue to evolve very fast. There are other industries that have actually adopted AI faster. And I think if I think even from an India context, as we are catching up and we have a long way to go to get there, how could we build in AI thinking and AI approach so that when we get there, we are already thinking of leapfrogging? Because that may be an advantage for the industry in India to say we have something more than the rest of the world. So introducing, of course, the use cases for AI and how that is applied in the real world, getting people familiar with training and working with AI, and learning how to work with that in any field. So you don't have to be a computer scientist or engineer to be working with AI. It can be anywhere. So how do we build that into the curriculum like a required program that allows you to now use it as a tool to make yourself more effective? So I think those are the ways we should think about it, whether those are through curriculum training, on-the-job training, but continue to bring AI into every dimension.
Excellent. And if you had one wish to even strengthen the talent pipeline further, which wish would that be in India?
I think because of the gap, the biggest gap I see is the learning and understanding of the semiconductor process, how a chip is made and what it takes to get into that. That is so unique, and you cannot learn it in pharma or aero and come and say, I know how to do this. That takes decades to train. Even in the US or other companies worldwide, we almost always recruit from our own peer sets of companies. So we almost never hire from a different industry because it takes you 10 years, 20 years to get there. So that's the hardest thing to learn. I think all the other things can be built in other industries, problem solving, the mindset to lead, to question. But the learning and how a chip is made and the processes that entail are extremely critical.
Thank you very much. Changing microphones, moving from semiconductor to the IT industry, over to you, Day. The IT services also require a constant upskilling as the technology evolves. Now, when you look at the situation is that many IT professionals, they need to stay up to date on their capabilities. What do you think is required on the job upskilling and what needs to change so the IT professionals can, on the job, increase their capabilities continuously?
Yeah, the IT profession is changing very, very constantly. So the training is very important, and there are tools available now, Udemy and Coursera, and I've seen the Khan Academy, and now they're also adding the AI component where these tools do the individual assessment. Say if take the assessment test and it'll identify what all the weaker areas I'm in, and then it'll provide me lessons to make me understand and strengthen my concept in those areas, and then also do the testing in those areas rather than creating a generic assessment test or generic test. So very customized, personalized assessment and training will be provided. And good thing is all these are available online and at a very affordable price. So the IT professionals need to keep up with that using the Udemy, Coursera, and Khan Academy. And with that, they can be up to date with the technologies and they can be gainfully employed.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Moving towards the academia side of things. So there is a huge projected global market of 1.81 trillion by 2030. This is the demand for AI professional is, because of the global market, the demand for AI professionals is skyrocketing. So the question is, how should universities adapt their teaching methodologies going forward?
I think there are two dimensions to that question. Academics are themselves thinking about the use of AI by their students and getting rather overexcited about it. And I think we need to get past that and think about how to weave in the use of AI into the learning environment more consistently. And I think we're starting to think quite well about that now. I think it goes back to something I said earlier. We need to have much closer collaboration with industry and much more regular mapping of industry need. The difficulty sometimes with particularly research-intensive universities is you have a lot of focus and attention on creating the pipeline of fundamental research, which costs an enormous amount of money. But you guys need that because that is where all the innovation comes in marketplace. It germinates usually in a lab in a university. So there is that kind of inherent tension between being able to sustain the capacity of our research pipeline at a fundamental level, whilst at the same time mixing that with much more agile teaching and learning processes. So we're starting to really tap into and lean into our alumni community and thinking about that lifelong learning journey rather than thinking about, you've graduated, woohoo, we might come after you for a philanthropic gift. Actually, we've never really thought about our alumni like that. We think about their employability and where they're employed and the seniority of their positions to think about how we can link them back into our students, how we can use them to provide more of those on-the-job learning experiences. So we launched at the beginning of this year, and it's really in the very early stages, a York for Life platform that connects all of our global alumni communities. And I'm as interested in connecting them through their employability experiences and understanding and mapping the needs they have for reskilling as AI starts to create the job obsolescence that you were talking about so that we can be much more responsive. But again, I think it is that systems level collaboration with governments, businesses and universities and figuring out a kind of a much better and more agile system of being able to respond to market need a lot faster. That is not something that typically academia thinks about, and I think we are now much more in the space of understanding we are drivers of economic growth. The University of York's had a very long interest in this space. We work at a system level in England. I'm really interested in how we can map that onto state priorities here, because we have areas of research and teaching that we feel we can find the right partners and be more than the sum of all of our collective parts. But that takes time and patience, and it takes that really different creative level of thinking about what education is for in the 21st century, and it cannot be as it was when Sophocles and Plato were dispersing their knowledge. I think there are big changes afoot simply because the education technology platforms are really now starting to consume quite a lot of attention.
So the universities, they still like to think about a final degree as a product, right? But it is actually preparing the students for lifelong learning and thinking differently.
I think to some degree, it is a product, but actually it is the gateway to life transformation and actually societal transformation. You know, that is why I work in higher education, because every year one of the highlights is watching our students from all over the world, including India, crossing that stage, looking so proud because they have achieved something incredible, and they are now launching themselves out onto a global marketplace. The difficulty compared to 20 years ago is that global marketplace is changing not on a cyclical basis, but almost on a daily basis, and we have to be able to respond to that.
Have you heard maybe about the Singaporean government? They are thinking about a degree for people above 40.
Yes.
That goes in that direction.
I already have my degree program planned for my retirement. I'm going back and doing history. It's the thing I thought I was going to do in the first place. I think universities are really starting to get very creative, not just about what they do in what they're good at, but what they're good for. That is a thing that our Vice-Chancellor talks about all the time. And that sense of social responsibility and working much more in the marketplace, I think is really interesting and very exciting. But I think there's so much more to do in terms of working with industry and having industry embedded back into academia. So we have a lot of PhD programs where we are now thinking very carefully about the diversity of where we draw those from. Coming back from industry, I mean, listen, Joerg, it's never too late. You could come back and do a PhD with us. Is really, really exciting. But I guess one of the things I wanted to throw out to you guys as well is gender bias. You work in very, very hardcore industries that are very still male-dominated, and I think we need to work together to think about the diversity of who are building those programs, what those algorithms are consisting of, and how that you ensure that AI is really for everybody, because I think that would be a concern, and that's where the interdisciplinary approach we're taking with philosophers and lawyers and sociologists becomes very interesting in terms of thinking in a more diverse way about the future of AI, where it truly will benefit the whole of society.
So, well, I took the question on the gender bias part, right? So I think we're a very technical industry, and in general, we recruit from engineering programs, and a lot of first cut is the ratio of population that is on campus. So we can't be over-represented even if we just pick the sample from school. But we have to be appealing to a broad base. And I think we have to make the science and engineering interesting and appealing for people to have careers long term. Every industry has the typical challenges that females may face with family matters that they have that come in the way. But how can we create opportunities around that? And there are some companies that have done that very well. For example, you may leave the workforce because you're having a child, but can you come back and get a job at the level that you would be had you stayed, right? Can companies do those types of things to create the draw? And of course, to try and create representation across so you can have enough opportunities for growth and promotion. But recognizing that for our industry and our company, there's a lot of self-selection because of the type of work. Engineering, I went to an engineering program that had 60 men and 0 women. So that itself was a very telling ratio, right? So, but really to get people excited about what we do. There's a career path to be had in the semiconductor industry. You can grow and actually thrive, and so there's no reason why people shouldn't look to join.
Great, thank you. You want to take over, Joan, here? Good. Third topic, the third subtopic now for our panel discussion is the building a global future-ready workforce. And maybe the first question goes to you, Day. As you know, SMEs struggle sometimes to attract, but also to educate and train. It's for you to train their talents compared to the large multinational corporations. So what scalable, cost-effective workforce development strategies can actually SMEs adopt in order to remain competitive?
This is a very difficult thing for SMEs to, small, medium enterprises to attract employees compared to the large corporations. I think SMEs need to adopt some out-of-the-box thinking here. So in our case, what we have done, I was actually focusing on the rural empowerment and rural development. So what we have done is we conducted an internship program, summer internship program for Rajiv Gandhi, it's called RGU-KT, Rajiv Gandhi University of Knowledge Technologies in Andhra Pradesh. So we had about 150 students. Those are in the junior and senior years of undergrad program. So we gave them a 2 months intensive soft skills development course. So where we had them go through 7 habits of highly effective people training, Toastmasters, and then we also had high school students from United States helping the students here write well and also speak well and also make videos well. So ultimately we challenge the students to find out, select one iconic person that they, really admire in their area of discipline, mechanical, civil, chemical, whatever it is. And then research that person. And so many people said, as expected, Elon Musk is their icon. So they created an essay on Elon Musk, and they created a presentation on Elon Musk. They created a video on Elon Musk. So it's all done with combination of high school students who are very good in English in the United States. So we did through the Zoom, these students did that summer internship program. And that created an enormous goodwill for our company. So when I went to the actual hiring, they were very interested in joining our company because I put in the time and effort to empower them, to make them great people. So, and other things that we did is we hired them and we said, you come and join us right away. So whereas large companies, they give offer letters, 2 years, they don't call them. I said, that's unacceptable. So this is where the small and medium-sized business has a competitive edge. I said, we'll give the offer letter and let them come and join. And not only that, I actually talked to the parents from the US. Every employee we selected, we had a conference call with the candidate and the family and said, we are offering him a job or her a job, so we'd like to have him come on board. And the family was ecstatic. So whatever the offers we made, 95% of them came and joined 6 months ahead. And the university allowed them to, do this. So they were also getting the salary 6 months before. And they got soft skill, hard skills gap removed. And 6 months later, they are very productive. So they got, in the resume, they got 6 months more experience they can project, 6 months more salary they got, and they got the job offer. So those kind of innovative things small and medium-sized companies can do to, gain the edge against the large corporations. 2 years people waiting is unacceptable. So small and medium-sized companies can hire them, put them onto training and the job right away. So that's how we were able to overcome Infosys, Tata's, and Tech Mahindra and all that.
So the small speed boats are faster than the large tankers, right? And you bring this to an advantage of the SMEs. That's a great story. Thank you. Over to you, Avinash, in terms of, India boasts a large youth workforce. You just look around here, right? Highly energized young people. While the world is struggling with an aging demography, right, in many countries. So the question is, how can India leverage that advantage and contribute to the global talent pool?
Yeah, well, you can hear me on this mic, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so, first of all, India has great talent and great large growing population, as you said. Our own company has 8,000 people here in India, probably the largest site worldwide. We have more people here than anywhere else. When we look, particularly even in our industry, semiconductors, which is growing everywhere, people are excited about building it. There's a huge talent gap globally. It's almost 1 million short. So that's we are 2 million people today employed in this industry, and in the next 10 years, it's going to be 3 million, and we have a gap. And that gap is everywhere in the world because of the same demographic problem. And so first of all, there's an opportunity in India to skill the workforce for India, but there's also an opportunity for skilling the workforce in India for the world. So people like myself and many of us who went to the States, worked abroad, and then came back are also supplying the world with talent to support the needs. And as we think about building those skill sets in India, again, for India, we also look at how do we give them the opportunity to go internationally. The market in India is pretty strong for end chips, for the consumption of chips. We all have it in our phones, but we don't make any chips in India. So one of the things is, okay, how quickly, as the government is looking to expand our footprint here and build a capability, do we build the talent and the infrastructure to supply the needs? This is at least a 5 or 10 year process to get to a place where we feel like we're getting what we need. When we look at the US, the semiconductor industry in the US is more than 50 years old. And so there's a lot of generational people who've been in this industry for 30, 40, 50 years almost, who are retiring. And there's a big void because over the last maybe 2 or 3 decades, they didn't do as much hiring. So now we need to catch up that gap as well. So the thinking is now how quickly these companies can absorb talent. Can we build capabilities here through the universities and academia, even to send people abroad for training, to bring people here, because that gap closure has to be accelerated. So when we think about what our company is doing, we are looking at closing that gap in many ways. So I moved back from the US a few months ago, but even at the lowest level, we brought people in from other countries who understand our equipment, who worked with our customers for the last 15 years and have wanted to move back. So we said, come join us. And at every level, we are looking at how do we bring people who can train our team as we look to hire at various levels, so quickly get them exposed to world-class standards through selective hiring, both seeding a few people from overseas who have the experience and then hiring across the board in India with certain basic skills to then close that gap. So that's one of the things we're doing. It's interesting that even as we think about what people do when they leave our company, in India, for some of our big companies, there are people who have left our company and taken senior positions. So we have a lot of pride in even feeding the industry at the senior level. But a lot of people come and join our companies and are successful at Applied Materials or elsewhere. So the learning and the process that we have allows you to learn, to solve problems and build, not just for us, for outside. Some of the other active things we have done in the last few years is work, like I mentioned, IIT, but also many other schools where we talked about skilling, specific gap closing actions for the industry today, whether that's industrial safety, semiconductor process, engineering, systems design. Those are capabilities that can go to other industries as well. So we have worked with academic institutions or industry bodies to do that. Our goal now is, can we train hundreds of people? We can't train thousands of people because that's not the scale of what we do. But can we train hundreds of people who can feed first the market here? But yes, if some people are successful to go abroad to do more, why not? Because it also needs, the industry around the world also needs talent.
Great, thank you. Great insights. And now moving to the governments and building upon this question, what can governments actually do now here, in this case, obviously, the India government, in order to incentivize and support this physical mobility? Are there any initiatives, Joan, that you have seen globally that work?
So I think we have to think about capacity. So that huge burgeoning youth population in India with so much talent and the scale of opportunity and also the scale of ambition for India's economy, wanting to grow 8.6, 9% per year. Nobody else is achieving that currently, speaking in major economies. To the scale and size of India. So I guess there's a question around the capacity within India and the collaboration opportunities through higher education alliances to think cohesively around where are the opportunities for injecting greater capacity, providing greater access to education, because education is the glue that effectively enables you to go forward and deliver that economic growth. So I think that's one thing. Universities have great convening power. So going back to the example about SMEs, if I think about just in the York example, we have a huge amount of work that goes to supporting our local economy, which is largely focused around small and medium-sized enterprises and providing pathways for our students to engage with those SMEs, but also providing laboratory technology facilities. So our biotechnology facility provides products and services and advice for a whole array of biotechnology companies in the region. Our Biorenewables Development Centre is supporting the development of hundreds of small to medium-sized enterprises in the bioeconomy that range from textiles to chemicals to food and drink. So that opportunity to scale up not only the education provision, but actually the laboratory experiences and the testing facilities. I think what's really interesting is a UK-India collaboration where you could deliver a much greater scale. So an opportunity I was thinking about this morning is we have an area of really specialist science. There are only a handful of science groups in the world looking at the deployment of anaerobic digestion for clean water. Now, what you really need is large scale, the size of a water treatment plant that is a testing facility that allows you to test out the microbiological science to deliver that clean water solution. Unsurprisingly, no water company is willing to hand over a water treatment plant for you to just test that out. So we know it works in a small-scale laboratory. We know it works in a mid-scale laboratory. Where are the opportunities for us to convene collectively to think about that system level of science application that could make a difference to millions of people's lives? I'm sure the same is similar in semiconducting. So that opportunity to think about industrial, government, and higher education collaborations around testing facilities to provide that real-world experience that gives you more oven-ready, steady supplies of graduates, where iteratively you can test out different components of technical advancement as it emerges on a more agile basis is something that I think has to be thought about as well. But it goes back to there are choices to be made about young people and their educational life choices. And a lot of that is about access, and an awful lot of it is about affordability. And it's also about, beyond the traditional degree and master's programs, what is the onward lifelong learning agenda after that? And how do we create more agile, immersive, but step on and step off education models that respond to that iterative need as well?
Thank you, Joan. Thank you. So here comes the last question, and I thought that I will ask the same question to each one of you. Yeah. So the last one who goes has obviously the hardest choice. And it is about looking into the future. There's obviously a rapid advancement of AI technology at scale, and the global workforce mobility and the nature of work and skills that are required, they evolve significantly. Now, when you look 10 years from now, what do you envision as the biggest shift in education, skilling, and workforce dynamics? You want to start, Dave?
Wow. 10 years is going to change the world with the way Elon Musk is going with Optimus and AI. So what I see is the work, probably how it gets done, gets changed, whether human beings do or the machines do. But the person, internal happiness, everybody wants to be happy, and so that's something that is not going to change. So my thought process is, I think India being the spiritual capital of the world, with the yoga, meditation, and all that, India would come up with some solutions for the world, how to be happy. So yes, Western culture, Western technologies will make the robots and AI, but they won't be happy. But India, everybody would be happy because they know their yoga, they know the meditation, they know who they are, they know how they're connected to the universe, so they are happy, and that happiness, India can send it to all over the world. Thank you.
That's a nice view, I must say. Excellent. And Avi, what do you think about finding the inner Zen?
So I'll take it slightly differently here. I think of two things with AI. One is, what will AI do to the workforce in India? And the other is, what can the workforce do with AI from India? So I think the first one is a worrying factor as we look around the world with AI taking away roles and so on. So those things we have to look for. How do we create the net for people to be able to still be successful with jobs that may be gone, right? There's many things that we do today in the Indian economy that probably could be automated very quickly in the next decade. So how do we train people to be above this, to have the skills to be relevant in the future, where AI or knowledge of AI is a key component of who you are and shaping your work? I don't have an answer what that is, but certainly we should be looking at training people for 10 years out, not training people for today or the next year. But I think the bigger challenge I would throw out as I think about what India can do as we come up to speed, we already have a very strong design capability on chip design. We already have 20% of the workforce in the world doing chip design here, which is going into AI and enabling AI. We have the software and technology capability. We are now building the capability to build chips on which AI is run. And once we do all of that, can we leverage the power of the Indian mind to say, how can I solve problems with what's going on in India, like we have solved many other problems in the world by leapfrogging. So we think about the financial sector, we think about cell phones, we think about many industries where India was behind and when we came ahead. So what can we challenge ourselves to do 10 years from now, applying what we will build, and we can train to say, let's solve problems with this capability that addresses challenges in India that can be also taken to other parts of the world that could use it. We have a huge population, generally a lot poorer, have different needs than maybe the Western world. But if we can address those, whether that's medical technology or banking, other things that improve your well-being, that learning can be taken to a different part of the world that today is not touched and benefited. So I would look at how do we challenge ourselves as an ecosystem, university, academia, government to say, how do we get ahead of it and create opportunities for us to solve that can be solved elsewhere.
Thank you.
So I think it was Mahatma Gandhi who talked about educating the whole person. And I think actually one of the most fundamental things we should do is to distinguish between education and knowledge and training. The two things are really important and they're interdependent. But I do think that interdisciplinary approach, the kind of multiplicity of disciplinary approaches to think about how exactly, as you've said, that we can benefit from AI and not let it consume us is really fundamentally important. So if I think about what would I like in 10 years' time, I would like a lot more deep co-design of education portfolios that capture both the joy of knowledge for its own sake and the application of that knowledge. So our Vice-Chancellor regularly says, almost on a daily basis, it's not just what it is, it's what it's for and the difference that it makes. And I think fundamentally, therefore, and I really love the happiness agenda because one of our academics, Kate Pickett, wrote a book in 2007 called The Spirit Level that tracked not just the purpose of economic growth for its own sake, but actually what it delivers, and happiness being one of those major, almost immeasurable indicators. Copenhagen have built their entire economic strategy, not about economic growth for its own sake, but about how happy are my residents as the basis of all of the activity I've invested in. So I do think that what it's for is really important. So my ultimate goal is that we could say that a York graduate is employable anywhere and not just employed somewhere.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're coming to an end of the session. Just to quickly share a little bit my takeaways. One of the takeaways is that the future of industry and also academia is evolving, driven by the trends, global trends, but also the technological advancements. There are 4 key success factors that we discussed. One was the industry, academia, and government collaboration. We explored that, the technology-driven learning, the skill-based hiring and models and on-the-job upskilling, and also a globally interconnected workforce to the degree possible. So I'm very personally excited about what the future will bring, and I hope you also had several takeaways from this session. I would like to thank you all for making this panel, and it was super insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We still have time for questions. Sorry, I didn't know that. Do we have a microphone there?
Wow, question.
Sorry, I thought.
No, that's okay.
Check.
Hello. Thank you very much for the very interesting discussions. One of the panelists made a very important statement. He said that the technology is developing so fast that human beings are becoming obsolete. My question is, as the academia, industry, and the government collaborated, we are talking about collaboration there, collaborated and evolved a integrated paradigm to deal with this.
Avi, is it that you can comment?
I don't know how to answer that question. I have not been involved with decisions on how to address it. And if I understand your question, you said technology is advancing so fast that it's making certain jobs obsolete.
Human beings obsolete.
Sorry?
Human beings obsolete.
Human needs obsolete.
Human beings.
Beings.
Obsolete,
making us
yeah.
obsolete. That's what you said.
I'm not that sort of visionary to take that question on, but if you even look at our own lives and how those have improved over decades with the use of technology and things that we used to do and we don't do. So there is certainly an improvement aspect through that. I think the social impact is about people's roles going away, and I think that's something that has to be taken up by government to enable and create the right guardrails and framework to not have that disruption. I think this is a question that people haven't fully addressed. You talk about the horse carriage moving to a car, moving to a faster vehicle, and people have trained fast enough to find jobs, but I think AI is catching up much faster than that. And I think that is a social question that certainly governments should work and impose on rules and restrictions on the development of technology and deployment of it.
Now, this is the interesting question you have. But the way things are progressing, that we will colonize Mars pretty soon. So in 5 to 10 years, we will be landing on the Mars, and we will be building same ecosystem and same thing like Earth. So there's a lot of work. After Mars, we'll go to Venus. After Venus, we'll go to Alpha Centauri planets. There are 500 billion planets in this cosmos, 500 billion. So we're just starting with the Mars. So there's a lot of work, guys.
I would say we've been predicting the end of humankind for almost every major innovation there has been. So I think we should take a pragmatic view, but I also think, and I say this because we have one, we do need to think about safety assurance. We need to have much more international collaboration around the ways in which we manage essentially systems that have no governance and no borders. And so I think that safety assurance angle that Joerg is leading on, and working with governments to make them understand the scale of the risk if they don't have that kind of systemic collaboration, it is certainly a responsibility that we feel very strongly about. And, it is up to all of us as voters, for those of us who live in countries where that matters, to make our voices heard, to ensure that there is a political willpower and a willingness to think very carefully about the safety assurance of artificial intelligence and robotics and what it means for society. But I'm always usually a glass half full kind of a girl, so I'm going to maintain my level of optimism that humans are truly extraordinary creatures and humankind can respond and survive and thrive.
Just a brief point, sir. One of the main problems the SME sector is facing is in terms of, one of the main problems the SME sector is facing is in respect of skilling and upskilling. What is the academia and the big industry doing to help the SME sector to overcome this problem? Thank you.
Actually, we don't need the support of anybody. There are tools available now, online tools, whether it's a Udemy or Coursera. I could give my employees any kind of training that's needed without universities, without anything. So we are doing that. So if the technology changes, we provide them the training. So online training and the strong mentorship. So we are able to overcome this technology change. So the online tools that are becoming evolving, they're also going to be AI enabled. When it's AI enabled means it's much more precision. So it will actually customize the lessons and the teaching right for the person. So somebody might learn by seeing the reading. Somebody might learn from watching the figures. Somebody might learn by listening to songs or movies. So AI will make sure that whatever maybe the person is, and it'll customize the lessons so that they'll learn.
Okay. Any other question? Maybe we take one more, two more, and then we close. Yes, can you bring please the microphone?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's an insightful session. So I worked 22 years in oil and gas industry in Shell and recently left my job. I was a petroleum engineer and I left my job to spend the rest of my life in education. So I was also abroad. I came back recently, a few years back. Now, one of the challenges I faced is either in academia or outside, whosoever is doing to what, they have seen education as a very linear industrial process. Some hard skill, some soft skill, which is loosely correlated to IQ and EQ, and then you're good to go. Whereas in reality, while raising my kids and few other kids it's a very organic process. And one of the most widely accepted view is Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. He says somebody is a visual intelligence, somebody naturalistic, so on and so forth. I'm not coming there. Even outside of academia or wherever, we don't allow that organic way of development, which means if you want somebody to grow at his or her own pace, maybe that person is very good at correlating the missing dots and finding solutions, abstract thinking, so be it. If somebody is good in something in taking care of environment, so be it. We always put, like even in this discussion, although the heading is future of skilling, we are hard focused on semiconductor and very hard skills, and then you talk about soft skills. Now that is one of the challenge I face, that a lot of people get derailed because we cannot put this template of only binary discussion of skilling into all the different types of natural intelligences that people are born with. So I think that's one of the challenges I faced, is we need to make it more organic than a very linear industrial process. And how do we do that?
So
what is the question?
It was more
then?
a statement, right? I understand. Less a question.
No, it's a question that, for example, you're doing skilling. You need to allow that room for allowing a learner to learn at his or her own pace. And we just play the role of, as you said, there is Udemy's of the world. We don't need to create contents or anything. We need to mentor them, coach them in the right way so they get the path right. So that's not happening is what so I'm just asking it as a question. How, don't you see that the development should happen more organically and we play the role of mentors and coaches rather than hard skill, soft skill, and then we...
No, in my company, we assign one person, one-to-one mentorship is there when we bring in the new employees. So it's not like a cookie-cutter approach. So, we make sure that they have their required soft skills, required hard skills, and then integration, project skills. So it's basically one-to-one mentoring we do. And so the training is customized for each person. So it's not any kind of cookie-cutter approach. The tools that are becoming available for training are quite amazing. I mean, we have been using the Khan Academy for tribal students in Bhadrachalam. It's amazing. We are seeing the skills of mathematics in the school children have improved significantly. So where before math, they were not that great, but once they started using the Khan Academy for math, their skills have improved significantly. So the tools are evolving with the right kind of mentorship and right kind of environment. We can mold, or we can, have the people develop in the ways they can, develop.
If I may just comment on this just quickly, we see this also in our work as consultants for our clients. Most of the upskilling work is actually individualized. You see this even when we work with ministries or with the private sector. The tools and today, they allow for individualized training. And that makes the difference. And this is when you're able to understand what are the strengths, you build on the strength, but what are also the white spots that you have, and you train that specifically. Today with tools, we have typically in a few days a personalized curriculum. That's really, it was such a game changer since the Gen AI has come out.
Just
final
one
question.
10-second I'll share that the best outcome when I was leading teams I saw when we gave Fridays free, go figure out what you can improve and no pressure on improving anything. And we saw some brilliant thing coming up because they are at their own and they can innovate things. So that was an insight I just wanted to share.
Thank you. Thank you for this. Maybe we do one more? Or no, or that's it? I mean,
I'm done.
I just want to be nice. One more.
Yeah.
One more.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Mitta Shekargod from Kalpataru Institute of Technology from the Rural College. The thing is, in the 7th SEM and 8th SEM, the placement industries will come. So at that time, it is not possible to upskill or whatever they have. I think it is better if the industries come at first SEM or the second SEM, and 50% participation of the industries in the academia, if it is there, like in the syllabus also, 50% focusing and giving the place for the industries, then it would be the ideal, what I mean to say. Thank you, sir.
Let me try and respond for what I think you said. You said at the first or second semester to bring industry into the curriculum or the program in the university to help shape the direction of people's education and training, as opposed to much later. I think is that what you were trying to say? And look, in my experience, I think one of the things, if you take the sector that I'm in, and we certainly want to encourage people to come into this space, and it is an area that is growing in India, so it is in our benefit to encourage people to choose this path. And how do we drive that at a scale that matters? So rather than just coming to one university, can we work with AICTE, for example, or any of the other academic institutions and bodies to talk about defining a curriculum and an experiential learning? So I think that's being discussed, as I understand, to talk about how do we deploy or develop skills that are relevant to our industry early enough in the schools. And my understanding is, as I've been speaking to some of the institutes around the country, they are looking at this curriculum, also coming with support from Ministry of Education and Electronics. So I think that will come, and certainly to see the input coming from the larger scale of schools, universities, to say we need to help train that. Yes, I think that getting them early, getting them trained allows them to also hit the ground running when they start with us. So I agree with you. I don't know the mechanism other than what we are talking about at the national level at various tiers on the councils and academic bodies.
So a final short answer from Joan.
3 very quick things. Employability is central to our education experience. So in first year, we actually offer the opportunity for all of our undergraduates to take part in industry-designed assessment centres, the kind of thing that a graduate might expect to be doing if they were going to go work for Goldman Sachs. That gives them a level of self-reflection and self-awareness, both of what their key interests are, but also where their key weaknesses are, so that they've got the time in the remainder of the undergraduate program to skill up on that. And I think the other final point is professors of practice. I mean, most of our School of Arts and Creative Technologies have people who have worked at the cutting edge of performance production engineering. And I think the more students are exposed to academics who are non-standard academics, as well as people who have only been academics, is a really important experiential exposure as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that was an insightful session. So could we have a huge round of applause for our moderator and our panelists? And I would now like to thank all of you for being here with us today with a small token of gratitude from our end. And I would request all of you to please put your hands together as we are